Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the LFC Transfer Room. My name is Lewis, and today I'm joined by Brandon and Colin. And today we're going to be going over a good few topics, anything Liverpool related. And if you guys have any questions that you want to get in for us, anything you want to ask, or anything you want to know, please feel free to comment, and we will get around to them as the show goes on. And towards the end, we'll do a bit of a Q&A. It doesn't necessarily have to be Liverpool related, just anything you want to know football. And before we get into this and hear about what the guys, how the guys are feeling, please make sure to like and subscribe for more daily Liverpool content. Brandon, Colin, everyone okay?
Yeah, doing good. I had to drive home in the snow, so I'm ready for the winter now. It's not even November yet, and it's already snowing this way. So good times.
Whereabouts in America do you live?
I'm in Ohio. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. So I think Colin, you're in
See, I don't
Pennsylvania.
know.
It's making your way. It's making over.
Yeah. I saw there's one conference of college American football that plays on Tuesdays, and they're all across the Midwest, and they were all playing in the snow. I saw, so
Yeah.
not a great time for the last day of October.
It really does blow my mind how like I can never gauge weather in America. Like some places it's just stupid hot, and in other places it's snowing, and it's so bizarre to me. But this is why I live in Britain, where it just rains all the time. To be honest, so yeah, we've got a good few topics to go through today. Once again, just if you've got any questions, anyone wants to know anything, please feel free to leave a comment and we will get round to them. First one we'll talk about is the Ballon d'Or. Now, we all know Messi won, whether you agree with it or not. I mean, that's up for debate. Personally, I think it should have been Erling Haaland to win that, but we can get into that in a moment. Brandon, I'll start off with you. I mean, really, has the Ballon d'Or sort of become a bit of a popularity contest more than anything? Is it just a chance to sort of show off the most popular footballer rather than actually acknowledging people for their abilities throughout the year?
Yeah, it's a total popularity contest. Like there was a year we went to the Champions League final. That's the record for most Premier League goals in a season. Drags Egypt to a World Cup appearance, and he finishes seventh. It's a popularity contest. Messi wins the World Cup, give him one more. Now he's been shipped off over here to the States. So it's a popularity contest. The goalkeeper one's a joke if Allison's not on it. So it makes no sense that you can say best keeper in the world and not have our beautiful Brazilian at the back on that list.
I mean, Colin, like exactly like Brandon said, Alisson is the best keeper in the world, and the Ballon d'Or Commission have said that in team trophies tend not to count towards it. But if we're going based on purely who's had the best performances for the past 12 months, surely Alisson is in with a shout of winning that award over Martinez.
Yeah. So I both do and fundamentally disagree with the basically that award is useful at all. I have no problem with awarding Messi this one. It seemed, he's done so much and really kind of inspiring the team and to and his country to a World Cup. I think that's fine to award that. And in fact, I actually don't have any problem with Emiliano Martinez winning that as well. You have some moments that win you a World Cup and really win your country the World Cup. I have no problem with him winning, and I have no problem with Messi winning. But to not for it to be so blatantly clearly not the best 10 overall, it clearly is just people who have garnered votes or kind of talk their friends into voting. There's absolutely no reason that Alisson should not be on the list at all, which is just insane. And that's really where the problem lies, is it's actually not a metric for gauging their overall. I think the winner often is fairly representative of the kind of overall year that they've had. But the as a ranking or as a ranking body, nobody should be putting stock into it at all.
I mean, the goalkeeper one, it was a bit of a, in the past, Alisson's obviously won it, Courtois won it, So, there's been good representatives for that trophy, certainly in the past. With regards to the Ballon d'Or as well, it's not like it's the first time this has happened. I mean, Nedved won it in 2003 when Thierry Henry should have won it. Messi won it in 2019 when Van Dijk should have won it. So it's not the first time that it's happened. Ribery 2013 should have won it, but I think they gave it to Messi that year or Ronaldo, can't remember who. But I mean, if we're sticking on to the Ballon d'Or, Brandon, I understand that last season wasn't exactly a great season for us personally, but surely, like you say, Messi deserves to be in that conversation, especially if you look through the top 10. I mean, Julian Alvarez, yeah, he won a lot of trophies, but didn't really contribute too much compared to Haaland. Vinicius Jr., Real Madrid didn't exactly have a fantastic season last season. So what do you think the actual reason for Salah being ranked 11th is? Do you think there's anything behind it, or that just seems like a fair ranking for him?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just there's always this weird. It's even like some Liverpool fans have this weird disrespect of Mo. Like, they still kind of like think he's on like a downturn when he's having like some of his best numbers. Like, even me, like, I didn't even realize he already had 10 goals this year. I thought he was kind of like, man, he's got to get going goal scoring wise. He's played 13 games, he's got 10 goals. I'm like, I sometimes miss it. So I think sometimes Salah just gets overlooked. Obviously, you get to play for Real Madrid, you automatically go up like 5 spaces, no matter if you are a bench warmer or not. Julian Alvarez being in the top 10, I don't even know like Man City fans who were that over the moon about him last year. Not saying he was bad, just saying like they knew there was another gear in him. I don't think anybody thought he was one of the 10 best players in the world. Yeah, like Colin said, like I just don't put a lot of stock into it, like looking into where everybody finishes, because it became, especially in the mid 2010s, it just became who's more popular this year, Ronaldo or Messi.
Very true.
So you've got no issue with him winning it. I mean, do you agree that Messi should have won it, or do you think Haaland was the way to go this year?
Like, if it was a like real like competition thing, like we're really digging in who was the best, it should have been Haaland. Like, it should have been Haaland. Like PSG was not very good last year. Like they seemed to be really as backward. That team was falling apart. Messi wasn't like, it was like he was scoring like 30, 40 goals in the league. I think he got like 16 in the league last year. Like, he was all off the World Cup, which, I mean, there's always the rumor out there that it was fixed. I mean, I don't think it was, but it's a fun thing to talk about sometimes. But yeah, if you're really going by, I mean, you have a treble winning striker who set records, like, it should have been Haaland. So it's just, it doesn't make sense, but it's the one, I think it's just the send off for Messi. Like, so I don't have problems with him winning, especially when I don't put that much stock in the award to begin with.
No, I mean, I agree. I think it's really interesting the way, Colin, that you think that you've got no problem with Messi winning it. I mean, I personally think that it's easier to win World Cup and a league title in France, where pretty much that team's guaranteed to win it, as opposed to winning the Champions League, which City have never won before, winning a Premier League, which, yeah, they win pretty much all of them now, but still did that, still to win the FA Cup. He broke as many goal scoring records as he did. I mean, like, there's a lot of people saying things like, if Man City, you put anyone in that Man City team, they're going to score an amazing amount of goals. That's probably why Messi's won it over the likes of Haaland. But surely the same could be said for Messi when Barcelona were the best team in the world back in 2010, 2011, that sort of era. So is obviously Brandon's made the sports clear with the Ballon d'Or. It's not something he really pays attention to. Is this something that should just sort of be disregarded now, or is it something that we should still hold in sort of high esteem going forward, the Ballon d'Or?
Yeah. That's a really tricky question, I think, is like, what do we do with these? Like, what do we do with these awards, which I don't think many people put much value in the outcomes of them at all. I feel this way about like a lot of things in pop culture, like Oscars, or like really like lots of major awards. It's like there's been a long and sort of documented history of like awarding people for it being time, or awarding people because it is something that Messi helps them win a World Cup and scores is arguably their best player throughout the tournament. without that, there's no way I don't think he has a shout at actually winning. But at the same time, I wouldn't have put it past them to do something like award it to him regardless. I don't know what the right answer for like who votes on the Ballon d'Or. Are journalists included in the voting?
I think it's just player votes. I'm sure it's just the players vote for each other.
Yeah.
Because I think it got released like a few weeks later. It comes out like who each player voted for, like their top 3 or something like that, and that's how they sort of go off it.
I just
I'm just trying to think because
there's without some sort of like extra voting body, there's no way it's not just a popularity contest. And even with an extra, like, if it were to be verified sports journalists or someone who has to be in a sports writing union or something like that in order to vote, there still is no guarantee that those people are going to vote outside of who the team that they cover is, or who the team that the best player on the team that they cover, essentially. So I'm just not sure. I'm not sure how you kind of bring back integrity into these sorts of awards and functions when clearly like the overall establishments, and we saw this with FIFA awarding the World Cup to Saudi Arabia, like just no integrity anywhere. There's no vote, there's no accountability, and nothing will happen. And nothing's going to happen to them, or nothing's going to happen to FIFA or Gianni Infantino. So I don't know like what the right solution to like fixing something is like that.
No, and like you say, I think the Ballon d'Or, it's a nice sort of award to get, I suppose. You're the best player for that year, but the issue I've got with it is I think when you come off of World Cups, the players who perform best tend to then get sold to the best clubs because they perform well. If you win the Ballon d'Or, odds are you're already at a world-class club. And I think the last person who won it and sort of went on to bigger and better was Kaká when he went to Madrid. I think he won it the season before. So it just feels like you're sort of glorifying people who we already know are great. I just don't see much point in the Ballon d'Or. Like you say, it's just money talks, and I just don't really see much of a place for it, to be honest. And if they're not actually recognising the person who's played the best for the year, like Alisson, without a doubt, was the best keeper last year in the world. But because Martinez saves a last-minute goal and wins them the World Cup, he wins the award. I don't see a point in it, if I'm being completely honest. Just before we get on to the next topic, anyone who wants to leave any questions or has anything they want us to answer, just anything at all, please let us know. And please make sure to like and subscribe. You get streams every single day. This is UK time, by the way, 7:30 every single day. 2 a.m. UK time, the stream that we're doing tonight for the American audience. And then we also have streams post-game every single match. So there'll be one tomorrow after the Bournemouth game, I believe. And then there'll be one, I think, at the weekend. But you'll constantly get updates with that. So the next topic then, we've got quite a few actually to go through. So following that, we have Bournemouth. So Bournemouth is our next fixture. I had to get the list up really quick then because I could not remember for the life of me. But tomorrow night, Liverpool playing Bournemouth in the Carabao Cup. And Brandon, honest talk, is the Carabao Cup something that we should be prioritising, or do you think this is something where we should just play the second string team? If we go out, oh well, it's not that important.
Yeah, it's not like overly important that we win the game, or like it's important obviously if we play to win. But obviously, if we go out, I'm not going to be, throwing things around the room and being upset. It's a great chance, especially continuing to have Keller play well, because I think he goes in the summer. If he continues to play well and get another cup, that adds value to him as we need to bring in money again. It's also great chances to see guys like Ben Doak, who may not play tomorrow, obviously, as he's coming back, or, obviously Bostic is hurt right now. But to see these young guys and still get them games and still have them under like Klopp's tutelage without having to send them out on loan to get their game time. So these are great opportunities for them, especially as they try to like force themselves into the first team picture as we do start having more Europa League games pile up, other cup games start coming up. We will need reinforcements, especially right now we have a little bit of an injury issue that we need to kind of have players ready to go and not, coming in completely cold because we're playing one game a week in the Premier League because we've already been knocked out of the cups.
Yeah, absolutely. And Colin, I've always been under the mindset of if you have an off season, so to speak, I know we're not this season, but I always feel like winning something like the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup just to sort of keep you ticking along is important. So, like the season we nearly did the quadruple, winning those two trophies was massive.
Yeah.
Do you think in a season that we're having, where obviously we're going through a transition period and we've signed all these new players, if we were to win the Carabao Cup and then, say if we did slightly dip in the league, would that be a success, would you think, or is it a case of, like I said, we don't really need the Carabao Cup, let's just focus on getting top four and maybe push for the league?
There's no way you can kind of sacrifice Premier League performance for, especially for like Carabao Cup or even really the FA Cup as well. But there's no way. I don't think there's any way to like really like regulate that other than like putting out like a garbage, like, or truly a terrible team, and not just like, oh, we're gonna play like the most promising. Like, no, you just like put out the U18s. I think that it's important for Liverpool to be in as many competitions as they can for as long as they can. I think it's important for Liverpool to continue to win games kind of across the board. I think that builds an expectation and a winning mentality at a club that's like, we're going to fight for everything that is in front of us. And it doesn't matter if we play, if we're playing Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Premier League, like we want to win the next game. Now, obviously that doesn't mean to play your absolute A1 starting lineup, but I feel confident enough that a B or C plus or a B lineup with some decent substitutions gets us past Bournemouth. And that should really be the goal, is like kind of play the worst squad you think you can play with, like, while still expecting them to be able to win the game. So it's like, if we got matched up against City, like we need to play some version of a A- team or a B+ team to have like a reasonable consideration to move on. If we're playing, a League One or League Two team in the FA Cup, like we should be able to play a full rotation of backups, a full under 20, some under 21 kids sprinkled in, and should be reasonably confident enough to win the game still. I just think that winning things matters, and winning those competitions matters, and you got to stay in them as long as you possibly can across the board.
Certainly, and I think, like you said, we should be aiming to win every game. And Brandon, it's interesting because, like you said, we should be playing, rotate maybe some of the second string players, so to speak. And like Paul says here, our second 11 should be comfortable enough to beat Bournemouth's best 11, which I absolutely agree with. But you've got to look at the injuries. So obviously, Jones and Doka back, which is fantastic, but there's still no Thiago, there's still no Badge-Tich, Robertson's out injured. If I said to you, pick our starting lineup for tomorrow, who would you be picking? And when we say second best, who technically is second best? Because obviously, is Gakpo second best to Nunez? Is Diaz now second to Jota? Like, who starts in your ideal 11 for the match tomorrow?
It's a tough question to answer because obviously the injury issues. I don't even as much as I love Thiago, I don't ever really factor him into squad selections anymore, just because it's just, you can't rely on it to ever be there like when you need him to, with all the injury issues. Obviously Kelly at the back, I would expect probably Kwanzaa and Matip at center back, Joe on the right. The kid that started last week, I blanked his name, that left back.
Chambers?
Yeah, just because I think they probably want Semi to be ready for the weekend. With obviously with the Lucho Diaz situation, I mean, are you going to throw him in on a Wednesday night with all the stuff that's going on in his life? I doubt it. So I'd probably think we'd probably have Yoda on the right. I would expect Yakpo to play, but he's still coming back from injury. So 45, 60 minutes. Then probably do see Darwin, depending on the game, I guess. And on the right, Doak's come back from injury, so I don't know if you're rushing him or you just playing through the half. So, and then midfield, Wataru, probably Curtis and Harvey, I would expect. Curtis has got to get back in the game form because I think they said something. I'm not sure what they said on the English broadcast, but on the American broadcast, it's like it feels like this 3-game suspension for Curtis has gone on forever. And I'm like, yeah, I do agree. It feels like he's been gone for a long time for just 3 games. So I think we need, get him back up to speed because obviously he was such a key to how we started the season. So to get him back up to speed, hopefully nab a couple goals early. See Trent, Cone Doherty, see him in the second half. Get a couple kids out there.
Colin, do you agree? I mean, is there any changes that you'd make there, or do you
Yeah.
think that sounds like our best starting 11 for now?
I think Brennan's really spot on with it. I think the like kind of key guys who need the game is, I think Kwanzaa needs the game. It's been a little bit since we've seen him. I think it would be important for him to get close to the full 90 if he can. I think it's incredibly important for Curtis to get the game time. And frankly, with what we expect of him and who we're playing, he should be running the game tomorrow. He should really be one of the, especially with some of the injuries, some of the absences that we have going on currently, like this should be a real opportunity for him to like be the proverbial captain, not necessarily the like wear the captain's armband, but like be the most important player on the field and really dictate how the game goes. I think Harvey could really use the full game. I think everybody else in defense, pretty much outside of Kwanzaa, is sort of rotational, and I don't know that anybody else gets a full game. Chambers maybe gets the full. Chambers and Kwanzaa get the full game. But yeah, outside of that, I think it'll be very kind of rotational and definitely kind of set minutes for certain guys.
Sure. Well, I think it's interesting. So Paul said his. He said Kelleher, Gomez, Matip, Kwanzaa, Chambers, and then midfield Endo, Elliott, and Jones. Now, in the last EFL Cup game, we played Curtis Jones as a right back. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking this seems like the best sort of back four for tomorrow. But do you think there's any chance at all, Brandon, that we might see maybe Gomez moving to the middle alongside Kwanzaa and then Curtis Jones in that right back spot, just so we can maybe put Endo, Elliott, and Gravenberch or something along that in the midfield?
I don't think so. I think really the Curtis at right back was just facilitated by not having Trent available, and so kind of that need. I think putting Gomez at right back. I agree with Colin completely. I'd rather have Curtis in this midfield running the game, not deputizing at right back right now. I'd rather have him middle of the game because that's where we need him going forward. Like if in a pinch we can do it, but I'd rather him getting back up to speed in the midfield where he's going to be most important to us.
No, I completely agree. It was a thought in my mind because obviously if we're trying to rotate and we're trying to keep everyone fit, Gomez and Matip have had injury problems in the past. So maybe it was just a sort of experimental thing as well, just to keep them somewhat fresh. Bournemouth as well, like one of the previous comments said, our second string team should beat their best side. Now, we've got injuries. Bournemouth also have their own. They're missing 7 key players from their team. There's no Lewis Cook. Mark Travers is out. Lewis Sinistera, Tyler Adams, Ryan Fredericks, Emiliano Marcondes, Neto, all out for this game, all injured. Does that sort of mean that we could maybe see players like Scanlon come in? Would Ben Doak maybe get a start? Obviously, he's coming back from injury, but it wasn't too severe. Would you like to see a few more of the young players, as in the youth academy prospects, come into the team, Colin, or do you still think that we should be sticking with that sort of just second strength team?
I think based on the injury report for Bournemouth, I think, and given the kind of idea that I have, which is that, I think Jurgen really likes to play the kind of base team that he thinks he can get away with, and have maybe some stronger subs to kind of rescue the game if needed. We've seen him kind of do this, especially in FA Cup and EFL Cup games, and especially in the past 3 or 4 years. I absolutely could. Who was the I'm forgetting the 16-year-old's name that we had signed in the summer, who was just training with the first team before the Champions League game.
Whoa.
Trey, Naomi. I don't know how to say his name. I'm pretty stupid.
Yeah.
I wonder if I didn't see the training report from today, so I don't even know if he was. But based on him training in in a pre-Champions League game, I wonder if we don't see him at some point, at very minimum, maybe on the bench. Yeah, I think this is one where, based on what Bournemouth are kind of. Thank you, James. Always there for us. Based on the kind of injury report that Bournemouth also, are, they're going to have to rotate because they need to be as healthy as they can to try to get Premier League points.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to switch some things, and their depth is just not there overall. So I think we could probably get away with that and still win a game 1-0, 2-1, and be pretty happy.
Yeah, definitely. And there's no Diaz. Praying for Luis Diaz and his family. From what we understand, his mother, I think, is safe. It's just the father that they're trying to find at the moment. So the thoughts go out to him. But clearly, he's not going to be involved in the team. Jota can't play left wing every single game, Brandon. So do you think that we might see Harvey Elliott possibly back on that wing? Or do you think Nunez may be out wide, or Gakpo? I mean, what's your solution for that? And if it is Jota plays against Bournemouth, does he then start against Luton? What's your thoughts on this?
I had myself muted, sorry. Yeah, I could see either Harvey moving out left, or if they go Yakpo left, maybe seeing like Frauendorf or somebody like that start up top for like the first half, see how it goes, see if we get we get out the lead, then we don't have to use Darwin or anybody like that. I know Paul kind of put out there, do we put like start the strong team, then go 2-3 up, bring in like kind of the reserves. Later in the competition, maybe. I just don't think right now that's a great idea, because you don't want to get dragged into a dogfight with your big guns and then have them wasted at the weekend. I think this is like the perfect game, kind of rotate. Bournemouth's obviously in an injury state, and also not in good form as well. They kind of seem to be all over the place, though, with how bad the teams at the bottom have been. They may already have enough points to be safe, so because of how bad the other three teams down there have been. But yeah, I think the issue is if you move Yakpo at the left, who do you go up going through the middle? Like I said, maybe Frauendorf, but I think it'd be Yakpo up top, and then maybe Jota still does start on the left wing, or Harvey moves over that way. But then that brings in, who do you put in the midfield? Do you play Grav again, who's just played back-to-back games? Like, it's just kind of a domino effect at this point of each move is also facilitating somebody who's in your starting 11 having to be in this game.
So it's mental that one player goes missing and suddenly it's like, oh my God, it's not that we have a lack of depth. It's just It's amazing how losing one player can, it's everything domino effects, exactly like you say. It's mental. We're going to get on to our next topic in a second, because I've seen a lot of comments about the title, and I'm going to tell you why it's not a misleading title. And by the way, it wasn't me, it was Charlie. So if you want to take it up with him, I was in work, nothing to do with me. I'm taking the fifth on that one. Before we go on to the next topic, though, guys, please make sure to like and subscribe for more daily content. We've also got an important question just before we go on to the next topic. Favorite Halloween candy? Mine's Reese's. I love Reese's. Absolute best things in the world. Colin, what's yours?
Mine is also Reese's, followed closely by I'm almost certain that you don't have this in the UK. It's called Reese's Take 5, which is like it's like it's got a pretzel in it. It's like like a pretzel then covered in Reese's with like some little peanuts in there. Heck yeah, that's really.
I absolutely love that. I love Reese's. It's like the absolute best. Brandon, what's yours?
I'm pretty basic here. Snickers. I will eat Snickers all night long. If you have them out, I will never leave, and I will just be eating all your Snickers all the time.
I'm hungry now. Jesus Christ. But anyway, before we get onto it then, so the next topic is Max Elbert. Max Eberl, even. Don't know where Max Elbert came from, but Max EBERL, however you pronounce it. I'm not exactly the best with the accents, but he has agreed a deal with Liverpool and Bayern now. I've seen a lot of comments saying that the title's misleading and that he hasn't agreed anything with us. It is true. He has not technically agreed a deal with us. So according to the reports, his heart is set on Bayern. This is something that's been the case for a long time. He left RB Leipzig because there was a lack of commitment to the club, because Bayern were interested in him. He's honoured to be linked with us, and apparently the deal is in place that if he can't go to Bayern or Bayern do decide they don't want him, Liverpool is his second choice. Now, Brandon, we don't want to be anyone's second choice, surely. I mean, how do you feel about this sort of keeping us on the hook kind of thing? Do you think that we should just be looking elsewhere, or do you think this should just be something that we persevere with and hopefully get our man?
You kind of, obviously, the way Jurgen's kind of ran since we've been in, it's like we've always waited for the right guy. If this is the right guy, I'm going to trust them that they'll wait for him. I am also not a big fan of being the second choice. Like, the only club I think that we should ever be second choice for is like Real Madrid. That should be the only other like team that someone says I prefer to go there. It's like fair enough, but like we're a bigger club than Bayern, in my opinion. I get it. I guess obviously being German, that's probably a dream of his, but I don't like being second choice. But if he's the guy, he is the guy, and like hopefully he ends up choosing us in the end.
Colin, I mean, I'm going to sort of give you a question based on what Brandon said then. So obviously he's saying that we shouldn't be anyone's second choice apart from maybe Real Madrid. But like you said, he is German. Maybe Bayern is his Real Madrid. I mean, if you were in his position, surely you'd be picking Bayern over Liverpool, or, you know, taking any sort of bias out of the equation. What do you think his best move would probably be?
I think it would. I think it's worth like trying to convince him to pick us over them. Like, I don't think it's one of those situations where you know, like sporting directors are much more rare than players are. You know, there's you got one of them a club, and there's no guarantee that they're any good. You know, for a club, or it's not as if that there is a starting 11 plus another 11 at every single club. So just based on scarcity, I don't think it's something that you can just walk away from the conversation based on him. You know, let's in theory say that he said, you know, Bayern is the place that I would really, really want to be if all things were equal, you know. But I think taking the opportunity to make sure that we're going out of our way to express what our expectations for the project, our expectations for kind of what we would like him to do, and trying to convince him on it, I think is worth it. I don't see getting say snubbed by a sporting director in the same vein as a player. I see that more as much more as like a business transaction rather than you know, a player saying, no, well, actually, I don't really like you guys that much. I don't really like your stadium, or I don't like your fans, or, you know, whatever the kind of, you know, behind the scenes reasoning is there. So I do think it's worth, you know, continuing to have that conversation with him, even if it is something that he says, well, you know, Bayern would be in my ideal place, again, if all things were equal.
I mean, this comment from Paul, German manager, German sporting director. There's so many cheap talents outside of Europe that we're missing by not spreading a wider net. The only thing I have to that is, Klopp knows who he wants. If this was, say, if we had Roy Hodgson still, I mean, thank God we don't, but say if we did, surely he would be looking for an English sporting director. Pep Guardiola, everyone around him's Spanish. Like, you know, people go for the culture that they are from, so to speak, in football. I feel you don't see you wouldn't see an English manager particularly going for a German sporting director. It's a very sort of out there thing. So I think that's probably why we're sticking to that sort of theme. But Brandon, and it's something that popped in my head before. Are we trying to fix a problem that's not there? Now, say we don't get Max, say we are with Jörg Schmadtke. He has only signed a short-term deal, but surely the business he's done so far, signing Szoboszlai, signing Gravenberch, signing Endo, does that not justify us keeping him around for longer? Or do you think this is something that we should just be looking elsewhere for?
I think I know York got a lot of shtick over the summer as like kind of the central defensive midfielder stuff kind of went out. I still think it's a short term. I think that's also like his preference. I don't think he wants to be in for the long haul. That's just me completely just saying that, never meeting the guy, never talking to the guy, just completely extrapolating that from nothing. So I think it's like something that the club is planning for. I don't think it would be so open about it if they actually had a plan that Jorg might be staying, that they want to be like this about Max EBERL. I can't say it either, so my bad.
Can't say it either. It's EBERL or EBERL.
EBERL.
Max.
Yeah, so I think this is obviously something that has been planned by the club, and that's what we're just following through on what's already been planned. Maybe if obviously it all falls through, maybe there is a contingency of talking to Jorg and seeing if he'll stay on for another summer or however that would work. But I think right now everything has just been laid out the past for like basically a 2-year plan of what we're doing.
Colin, I mean, do you agree? We got Jorg out of retirement for this job, for this short-term job. Do you think it is a case of it's a one-and-done season, or should we be looking to extend his contract for another year or two?
Well, based on the kind of public nature of us going after other sporting directors, I wonder if this isn't something where like Jorg doesn't really want to do it. Like he just wants to go back on vacation and like hang out on a beach somewhere. I mean, to your exact point is like the man retired, and the man had plans of actually retiring. Like maybe this is not something that he actually just wants to do anymore. Like, and that's okay. Like we oftentimes as fans and in a fan community, we're like, why would someone not want to be our sporting director? They already have the job and they did fairly good enough, and I would say quite well, and we've given him an extension. If he really wanted to stay, I feel like he would be staying. Like if it was something where he really was like, yes, like I think I could do this for another 2 to 3 years, and fine, in a year and a half we can start looking at successors and whatever. This strikes me as like he is not that interested in being a professional in that capacity any longer. Like what if I was the sporting director and someone was that openly kind of courting other people in front of me and I had plans to stay? I think that would pretty much be the writing on the wall for me, that like to leave anyways. So it doesn't strike me as that weird. My assumption is just that it is something he just doesn't really want to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think if it was something he was going to do for longer, we would have signed him. He's not old. I think he's 50. I want to say he's 59, and the one we're looking at is 50 or 51, something along that. So, it's not exactly like he's retirement age. I think he's just made enough money that he's decided to do it, and we've just had the sort of draw to convince him to come back out. So, it is. I'd be happy. Go on, sorry, Colin.
No, it's just that's really the dream, is like make a couple $1 million and be like, I don't care. Like I could work. I'm just not going to.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go hang out on the beach forever.
Exactly. And we somehow managed to convince Jorg to come to the UK, where where every single beach, it's absolutely teeming down with rain. Paul said, why not go hire Brighton's sporting director? I think I might be mistaken. I'm sure he went Newcastle. I think it's a new one they've had this summer, but last summer I'm sure Newcastle got him with the takeover. I'd love Brighton. I mean, Brandon, surely in terms of the Premier League, there's no club that's ran better in terms of transfers and financially than Brighton at the moment.
Yeah, there's nobody even close to like what Brighton has been able to accomplish the past couple of years. Just the way they turn players over, or like the small fees to. Basically, it's the dream you have when you play FIFA or Football Manager. You sign somebody super cheap, then you set the future up for the club for the next 20 years by how you sell them. So they've got the model down.
Now, Does that not sort of remind you of FSG maybe a little bit? Same thing we did with Coutinho, same thing we've done with a lot of young Solanke, Jordan I, buy them for cheap, sell them for high prices, and then invest the money elsewhere. I mean, are they not similar models at all, do you think?
Yeah, they're very similar models. Obviously, it's just the aspirations of what the clubs can achieve is the big difference. And that's why maybe we're not in the same praise as what Brighton gets, because ours has probably cost us maybe a league, maybe 2 leagues, maybe cost us a Champions League, like that, just because we didn't reinvest in the right time because we were pinching pennies when we didn't have to. So obviously, like with where Brighton wants to be, obviously, because just 5-6 years ago, Brighton wasn't even in the Premier League, and now they're one of the best Premier League sides in the league, top 10, top 8, whatever they're going to be. So like, it's just where the clubs are. That's probably the big difference of why you can rate Brighton one way and Liverpool a little bit of a different way, even though they're trying to kind of accomplishing the same thing.
Colin, this is a question that's it's just popped in my mind. I don't know why. Obviously, you're an NFL fan. Is there anything that we could maybe take? So I've heard that a lot of American football clubs, often the owners are like just taking money from the teams, there's a lot of so-called dodgy dealings. Is it a case of, would you say NFL teams are ran better than Premier League football teams? Is there anything that you can sort of take from the NFL that might improve the way we do business in the Premier League, or is the one system that works better than the other, do you think?
The NFL system being dominated, I mean, really is kind of within the construct that there is a salary cap, right? So there's only a certain amount of money that, and it's the NFL salary cap is not like the baseball salary or the baseball cap, which is not really a cap, you just spend over it, or like the NBA cap where you can just spend over it and then you can like basically just pay extra fines to spend more, right? So in both of those leagues, like, you can just kind of spend what both of those you can spend what you want. NFL like is a hard salary cap. There's only a certain amount that you can have, and the only way people kind of fudge it is to like spread out bonuses over the course of like the long course of the contract, right? So that kind of dictates the way that they are able to really do things. Now, like scout, my point was going to be about Brighton was that I think it is more of a like team and like organizational like ethos around the club, which is like this is what they're going to do. Like their scouting department is geared for it. It almost doesn't matter, I don't think, who their sporting director is. Like they've decided that this is what they're going to do and this is how they're going to go about it. And that to me strikes me as very NFL, which is like a lot of teams, especially if they're reasonably successful, have a like a real way about doing business and something that you can kind of point to like long term about how they do the business and how that can help them become successful and in whatever way that they define the success. To me, that is the most consistent thing across both of the leagues. Is like I think the clubs that really have a very clear idea of what that is, and can go about executing it better and therefore are more successful.
It's really interesting. Like I'll watch NFL. I don't know a great deal about it. I don't know all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And Brandon, I said a few weeks ago on one of these streams that American ownership, when it comes to Premier League teams, seem to get a bit of a bad reputation, like Todd Bowley, FSG, Stan Kroenke, stuff like that. But do you agree with Colin? I mean, is there anything that we could learn from the way the NFL's run? Obviously, there was stuff that Colin said, but what's your sort of take on it?
I'm not a massive NFL fan, so you actually might know more than me, Lou, on that stuff. But I think the salary cap is like a good idea. I think if financial fair play worked the way that we actually wanted to, that could fix a lot of these issues. What I like more about English stuff is that there is like a punishment for a bad owner. Like you're seeing it in Major League Baseball right now with the Oakland Athletics. They have an owner who literally is trying to destroy the team so he can move it to Vegas and make a lot of money. Whereas you can't in England. Like, if you destroy the team and it no longer exists. So I do like that there's like more of a punishment for bad ownership, whereas in America, it's kind of they price it out to the point where like only a certain amount of people can like own it. Like every single team in Denver, I believe, is owned by the Cronkies. Like every single professional team is owned by the Cronkies. So there's not like that, American dream of you can buy your own sports team. It's like, no, they're kind of all priced out of your range. So, but yeah. And if we can do like a salary cap in the Premier League, I think the biggest issue with the salary cap is that sometimes it makes teams really make hard decisions that can destroy a team like the Bulls after Michael Jordan left. They were really bad for a long time. So if Liverpool go all in and then have to sell off a lot of players and then they get relegated, I don't think any of us are going to be happy about that because the salary cap forced us to be in that situation. Obviously, there's pros and cons. I do like the salary cap in general, but I think I don't know. It'd be one I'd have to think about more.
So yeah, I think the salary cap could be. There has been talks of it coming to the league because like Haaland, for example, is on so much money, it's unreal, and like obviously teams like City can dominate the league. Like Jamie says here, NFL allows different clubs to be contenders, and that is something that I'll watch the Super Bowl every year. Every year, it's a different team. That's ideally what we want. We don't see a lot of that now in the Premier League, so. That would be a great thing to bring into it. For the last 15 minutes, guys, we're going to do like a Q&A. So any questions that you've got, anything that you want to ask us football related, it doesn't just have to be Liverpool, it can be absolutely anything. We will answer them for you. And please make sure to like and subscribe. I think we're super close to 10k subs, which would be absolutely amazing. Want to try and get there by Christmas. And the work the guys put in and like Colin and Brandon joining in really does help out a lot. So thank you guys very much. First question we've got is Poch or Eric Ten Hag, who gets canned first? Will both still be at their clubs at the start of next season? Colin, I'll pass this question to you. I know my personal thoughts on this, but in your mind, who's going first, Ten Hag or Poch?
I'm weighing in my mind how crazy I think Todd Bowley is. I think
he's crazy.
He's really. Speaking of American sports, he has a horrible reputation as the Dodgers owner as well. I think Eric Ten Hag is more likely at this point. Yeah, they're above Chelsea, at the moment. I said this. I think I said this in the WhatsApp group. I've watched quite a bit of United. They're on constantly here in the States. So obviously they put them on TV often. They're awful. I have watched them play. I think they're like really, really, really bad. And they're a bad watch too. I don't know that he's gonna last all that much longer, it's so funny to think about because that is not the biggest of their problems. Like the fact that they just cannot commit to essentially tearing down and rebuilding is the problem, and they always have to move on to the next fake 6 month to year and a half solution. So my guess is that Ten Hag is the first to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement. Brandon, any thoughts on this? Do you think Ten Hag, or do you think that Poch maybe could surprise us?
Yeah, I think the Todd Bowley wild card is like the only thing that really keeps it from Ten Hag, because you would think any rational person, when you throw like 30 new players on a manager, it might take time for them to figure out exactly who's the best 11. But obviously Todd Bowley sacks Tuchel right after the transfer window closes, after he just spent a whole bunch of money on players for Tuchel's system. So we don't know exactly, like maybe they've learned a little bit of a lesson, but yeah, like Ten Hag and Man United, you saw a lot of the pundits after this weekend. It's like, you don't know what they're trying to do. That's like the biggest, that's the damning like thing about United, is you don't know what they're trying to accomplish on the field, off the field. It's just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And it's just, obviously their problems go way deeper than almost any team in the Premier League. Really, just like not just their on-field, their off-field stuff is a mess, and like the ownership, everything else going on is just. But if they get rid of Ten Hag, I just don't know who they can get that's going to be wanting to come here and try to fix that. I heard somebody say Ancelotti. I'm like, why would he want to burden himself with that? It makes no sense to like want to like end up going from Madrid to go to that mess like right now. But I think if Poch continues this run, I know I sent the picture in the WhatsApp of Brentford has more wins at Stamford Bridge since April than Chelsea
Yeah.
has. So, like, if they keep having those kind of stats pop up, Poch can't last long either. So, I still think it'd be Ten Hag goes first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement. I think with Chelsea, they've improved on last season. You can see games where they are getting better. But with United from last season, they've just got so much worse. Like they're going backwards, whereas Chelsea at least it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. United's just 5 steps backwards. There's no sort of, and even the games they've won, like the Nottingham Forest, they had to come from 2 goals down. The Wolves game they should have lost. There's just no convincing wins.
They have like 15 points and they should have 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like they are overperforming. I would love to see the overperformance stats, or like which teams have gained more more points than their kind of overall stat pack shows, and I guarantee they've gained anywhere between 3 and 6 points more than they honestly should have. I totally agree with you guys. I think they look awful. Like they look bad
and dreadful.
Yeah.
And I said they'd make top 4. That's how dumb I was before the season. Like, I think they'll still make top 4. They'll be fine. I'm shows that how much little I actually know about anything about this sport. So
it's fine. I mean, I said Chelsea were going to finish second, so honestly, I wouldn't be stressing about that too much. And I put that on my own channel as well. So, Jamie love the Tim Burton shirt. Thank you very much. I wore it especially for Halloween. Thought I'd get in the mood for it. Question for you 3, other than Liverpool, which Premier League team is your second favourite, or do you hate the least? Colin, I'll pass this one to you first, because I'm really struggling with this one. I'm trying to think of anyone, to be honest.
Yeah, mine goes on like a scale of really the scale is mostly to do with like groups of fans that have like like tragedy chanted, like yes or no. Like that's if you're doing like an org chart, it's like has the fan group, has the fan base or tragedy chanted yes or no. It's like yes.
Yeah.
The only team that I say that like I can watch regularly and like I don't hate is Arsenal. Like their fans like are, I mean, although they are kind of like annoying on Twitter, there's a long documented history of kind of crazy Arsenal channels and things like that. But like, are they somewhat annoying? Yes. But are they like terrible? Are they like awful? No, not really. And when I first joined the streams and I first started appearing, I was asking about, what, because there was, especially towards I think the end of last year, there were a lot of fan bases that went to Anfield and were like really, really awful. And I had asked about, I was like, how many groups like have come to Anfield and like not done it? And one of the only ones that I heard consistently from the other guys was like the Arsenal fans were like one of the only groups who haven't done that. So I will watch an Arsenal game. They play like nice to watch football, so it's not a hard watch. And then outside of them, I like watching Roberto De Zerbi's teams. I think Brighton are a fun watch also.
Yeah, Brandon. I mean, do you agree? Have you got a second choice sort of team, or?
Yeah. I've always enjoyed kind of like the underdog feeling of like a Bournemouth and a Brentford, like having these small stadiums and outperforming what they should be in terms of size. But overall, like I've gotten like after the quadruple season, I was so exhausted from watching so many games and being on the edge of my seat and like flipping out when Allison was past to Virgil, even though there's nobody within like 30 yards, still like on the edge of my seat, like, oh my God, that almost cost us the game, because every single game mattered so much that I decided to get into the lower league just to have like a nice, comfortable, easy watch and not have to care about every single second. And I got into Preston just because like the connection with Shankly. And I got into Portsmouth because I'm from a town called Portsmouth, is where I was born. So it's like, let's follow those teams and see what happens there. But Preston's bad right now. And Portsmouth, I think, is coming up to the championship. So
I don't really have I mean, Premier League, not really. I'm fascinated by Luton. but obviously that's just because they've just come up and no one's expecting them to stay up. But if there was a second team, I mean, this Tranmere Rovers, they're not too far from where I live. That's one, and other than that, oh God, I can't really think of another one. I'd just have to say Tranmere. It's tricky, really.
They've got some Tranmere
definitely.
I got like jersey and pins and stuff from them because I followed them too. They're so far this year.
Do you guys want Everton to get relegated? Yes, I do. I'm not going to lie. I don't in the sense of I love the derby, but honest, last season I was watching that Bournemouth game where they managed to survive, and when Bournemouth scored first, I nearly hit the ceiling. I mean, Colin, do you want to see them relegated, or do you think this is something that you just want them to survive in the league for as long as possible?
I do want to see them get relegated. I think we have missed our chance to see that. I think last season was the chance to do so. I think there are so many genuinely bad teams in the league this year. I just don't think that they're bad enough and poorly coached enough to actually go down. However, yes, if that were to happen, that'd be like really, really funny. I'd get a good kick out of that.
I mean, personally, my second team is apparently Everton. I can tell you now it's not. I lived in Liverpool for like 16 years. I can tell you, hand on heart, it is not my second team. 100%. I mean, Brandon, do you agree? Is this something that you'd like to see happen, or is this just something that we're just we're being cruel for the sake of it?
I have like such a morbid curiosity of Everton going down with like all the financial stuff they have going on, just like to see how bad it can really get. Obviously, I wasn't a fan when this happened to Leeds. I came in the year Hodgson was here, so I mean, I guess I almost got to be here when Liverpool went through their stuff. But to actually see with the new stadium, then with all the financial fair play issues, like it can get crazy if they go down. I don't want them to go away. I kind of want them to stay because I do love the Derby, and I always say, I like them to finish second because I'd rather have Merseyside be 1 and 2 than anybody else in the country. But I just have such a morbid curiosity to see how far they could fall if they actually do go down. Because I mean, I don't think it would stop with one relegation. Yeah, I think it would.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would get all the way out of the league before they would start coming back, but it's not that ridiculous to suggest.
Well, apparently, because on year, you're allowed a certain amount of debt for your club, and I think it's something like the maximum amount is 100 million, and Everton in COVID were up to 300 million pounds in debt. Add to that the fact they're going to have to pay for the new stadium annually. They're facing a possible 12-point deduction in the league. They're on 10 points now, which would put them at -2. So, it's not ran very well at all. And if they go down, having to pay off that stadium with a significant decrease in match day revenue and shirt sales and income, like advertisements and stuff. I mean, going down is one thing, but going into administration is another. And I wouldn't want that to happen to them. But like you say, I would just be curious to see what happens if they actually did go down, whether they'd just come straight back up. Or it's like when Chelsea last season, people were saying they could get relegated. I'd love that because I just want to see what happens. If they go down, we can grab Amadou Onana and Jared Braithwaite. I mean, Colin, would you have either of them at the club?
Both.
Oh, really?
Give me both of them.
Right.
And Evertonian tears. Send them my way. They would be so mad. They would be so mad by that, especially if they turned out to be really, really good for us. They would never get over it ever. It'd take them 35 years to get over it. It'd be great. I'd love it.
I mean, wow. Would you actually? Do you think they'd actually be good signings for us then?
So, this is something I've also been like, a thought process I've been working on this year is that I think we really overrate whether or not players are just good or bad, and really underrate whether or not they're in the right place for them or they're in the right situation to kind of show their worth. There's no way. I don't think there's any way that any of us can say that Mason Mount is playing to his actual potential at the moment. Like when we were all on the streams, like in the summer, we'd be like Mason Mount. All of us were like, yeah, we'd take him. It'd be, think he's a good player. Now the prices might be too high, blah blah. There's no way you can tell me that he would not be playing, or he'd be playing that badly if he was playing for us currently. Like I think that the situation makes so much of the difference, and having a manager that believes in you, an assistant that believes in you, and kind of gives you the opportunity to live up to that potential is so important. So yes, I trust our coaching staff to take players that maybe are not the very best, but have potential and can grow them. So that's my kind of long form theory on player development. There we go.
We'll answer one more question in a second, but Brandon, do you agree with that? I mean, is there a player at Everton that you think would come to us and do a job, or someone that you would look at in that Everton team and think, oh yeah, I'd have him definitely?
Yeah, there was before the season, like on my own show, like I kind of did a breakdown and I talk about Everton, and I was just talking about like how bad the team kind of was, and I said there's 3 players that I would take at Liverpool, and it was Onana, Brentwaite, and I said Calvert-Lewin, just for like in the 80th plus minute, we're down a goal and we can just have Trent whip crosses and he can just jump as high as he can to go after him. Like he would never start, but he would just be that crazy plan B we could have in the back pocket. Yeah, but those 2, then plus Calvert-Lewin just in an emergency case. Yeah, so Onana, I think there's players there that can definitely be molded by a top-end coach or just a top-end system, like kind of what Colin is saying. If they're in a stable system, stable environment, with not just all this insanity going on around them, I think there could be really good players come out of them. Would they ever be like Liverpool starters, like first name on team sheets, or the perfect one beside Van Dijk? I don't know if they ever get to that, but they definitely be useful squad players with room to grow.
Fair enough. Onana is one in particular that I really would look at and think, someone who is young Fabinho. I'm not saying he's not. He might be very good for us. I'm not going to dispute it. He's probably their best player, arguably, like you say, alongside Calvert-Lewin at the moment. But he's just not someone that I'd ever think, yeah, Everton just wouldn't do business with us. Let's be real. It just would not happen. And then final question, just before we shoot, guys. Is Szoboszlai human or a cyborg?
He might be a T1000. Like he really might be. He could be. He's a freak.
He's unreal. I can't get over how much energy he's actually got. It is literally that part where it's sprinting down the hallway like after John Connor. It's literally exactly how he moves.
So at the end of every game, he just seems to still have energy to like make a run up and down and like doesn't seem to be overly exerted, and also is really good. Like he's not just like a freak that just runs up and down and like can't kick the ball it has no touch. He's incredible. I am consistently shocked by him.
I mean, he could be future captain material. We don't know. Number 8, he's filling the role at the moment. He could be a future captain once Van Dijk leaves and, Trent gets older, maybe vice captain, something like that. And then last question, but just before we go, guys, score prediction for tomorrow. Brandon, what do you think it's going to be?
I'll go look conservative. I'll just go 2-0 Liverpool.
Okay. Colin?
2-1 Liverpool. I think they get an early goal. And I think we have to make some more senior subs and get a couple back.
I'm going to say this is a 5-0, if I'm being completely honest. I think Bournemouth, the way they play at the moment, they're trying to play counter-pressing football. I think they're going to leave so much space open at the back, and the players we've got going forward, it's going to be an absolute field day for us. If we want to get 9-0 again like we did last season or the season before even, fine, absolutely fine. Let's do it. So, everyone, thank you very, very much for the comments. Just before we shoot, just please remember to like and subscribe. As I say, so close to 10k subscribers. There's new streams every single day, 7:30 UK time, 2 a.m. UK time for the American audience, like we've done tonight. And there will be a post-match stream tomorrow following the Bournemouth 5-0 victory for Liverpool. So please make sure you tune into that. From myself, Brandon and Colin, thank you very much, and we will see you again soon.